What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Early Tea Time live stream. I am Hunter Vaness. Thanks for joining us here tonight. We are going to go over the 150th edition of the Open Championship, or the British Open. I guess we can call it, right. But it's the final major of the year. It's really crazy that we have reached this point in the PGA Tour season. I know at Fantasy Points we started during the first major of the year way back in April for the Masters. So pretty crazy that we've gotten to July now. It's just flown by, really fast. So again, I appreciate you all coming here tonight. Again, we're going to preview the old course at St. Andrews Golf Club for the first time since 2015. The Open Championship will be hosted here again at the old course at St. Andrews. Collin Morikawa was victorious last year in the Open Championship. That was his debut in this major. It was at Royal St. George's Golf Course. He shot a 66 4 under par in the final round to win the second major championship of his young career. He won the PGA Championship back in the fall of 2020. Last year's top 10 went Jordan Spieth. He finished in second place. He kind of, put a little pressure on Morikawa heading into the final 6 holes, but Morikawa was pretty solid and, ended with that 2-shot lead. Jon Rahm and Louis Oosthuizen tied for third. Louis was actually the leader through, I believe, 3 rounds last year, but just kind of crumbled away on Sunday like he did in other majors. Again, Jon Rahm was tied for third last year. Fratelli finished 5th. I think he's kind of a sneaky play this week. We'll talk about him maybe a little bit later. Mackenzie Hughes was 6th, followed by Brooks Koepka, who also tied for 6th. Brooks shot a 8 under par in the final round to really jump up that leaderboard. Robbie McIntyre finished T8, Scotty Scheffler T8, Daniel Berger T8, and Dustin Johnson T8. They all finished 7 under par last year. The last 5 winners of this tournament include, again, Collin Morikawa last year. He won at 15 under par. 2020, of course, was canceled due to the pandemic. 2019 was won by Shane Lowry. That was his first major, and hopefully he gets another one to his belt. It'd be fun to see him win this weekend potentially. Molinari won in 2018 at 8 under par. Jordan Spieth won in 2017 at 12 under par, and Henrik Stenson won in 2016, 20 under par. The 2022 edition of the Open Championship will be the 30th at the Old Course. This is the most of any venue to host a British Open or the Open Championship. The last 8 winners at St. Andrews were in 2015. The last time that it was hosted here was won by Zach Johnson. He won at 15 under par. Louis won in 2010. He actually followed that up with a runner-up in 2015 to Zach Johnson. So he's got some great course history here. I'm sure you've probably already heard about him all week. He also had a good price bump. I think he was in the mid 7,000 range during the U.S. Open. I think he's at 8.8 this week. So, DraftKings definitely saw his, course history here and gave him a little bit of a price bump. It'll be definitely be interesting to see how the ownership shakes out for Louis this week. Tiger Woods won in 2000 and 2005. He returns to St. Andrews this week in what could be his last trip to the Old Course. You never know. I think it is slated to host this again in 2027. So I don't know how old Tiger will be by that point, but, we could see him again here. It's definitely no, secret that he loves this course, as do a lot of, the most iconic golfers in our lifetimes. Again, Tiger Woods won back-to-back times here for the Open Championship again in 2000 and 2005. He won by 8 strokes and 5 strokes, respectively, at 14 under par and 19 under par, respectively, as well. John Daly won at 6 under par. Nick Faldo won at 18 under par. I believe he'll be there, of course, calling the broadcast this week. Seve won in 1984, and Jack Nicklaus won at 7 under par in 1978. So I think I had that. Yeah. So Seve won at 12 under par in 1984, excuse me. Nicklaus won at 7 under par. So, the average winning score through, these 9 to 10 events of the course is 12 under par. But however, the last 4 years have produced a winning average of 16 under par. This definitely gets to be one of the, lowest scoring of the 4 majors. We saw that U.S. Open, of course, in the, single digits. I believe the PGA Championship was pretty close to that. And if it weren't for, Scotty Scheffler's, 4-putt in the Masters, I think it would have been pretty close to single digits as well. So this one definitely gets in the double digits. I would not be shocked to see it higher than, or lower, I guess you could say, than 15 under par. But, you never know. We saw it last week with the Scottish Open. I definitely need to admit when I was wrong on that. I thought it was going to be much lower scoring last week. Excuse me. Obviously, the weather played a big impact on that. But, um, with these kind of courses and these kind of events that we have really limited data on, such as this one, right? This has been played here 30 times, but it's only played here every, 5 years or so. It hasn't been played since 2015. So, of course, golfers are going to change. The game is going to change throughout those years. You just never really know how it's going to play, especially, again, if it's not played on a year-by-year basis. So, there could just be something to be said about kind of going the opposite of what we all expect the course to play. So, for example, we thought it was going to be relatively easy last week. I at least thought we were going to see a score close to, minus 18 to minus 20, for example, but we definitely didn't get that. Again, it's could be something said to just kind of fade or do the opposite of what we all believe is going to happen. So, for example, I'll talk about it a little bit later, but looking more at bogey avoidance instead of birdie or better this week. Just another way to potentially get a little bit different because we don't know how this course will play, right? I mean, I'll go through all these holes, but the weather can always pick up. That can change on a day-by-day basis. The greens, of course, can bake out throughout the day. We never really know how this weather is going to impact the event. So, take a lot of what I say with a grain of salt because, again, I'm just kind of making predictions here, of course. So, but we can do what we can to, pick apart the course, and we'll do that here in a little bit. Again, no course in the world has more history than the old course at St. Andrews. Of course, the golf course is considered to be the first place where the game of golf was played in the early 15th century. Just doing a little bit of a deep dive. You start on Wikipedia, of course, and then you start to click on different sources and different links, and then you dive deeper into some of these stories. But it definitely has, again, a lot of history here. It was banned in 1457 by James II. He was the king of Scotland, the game of golf, I should say. So golf as a whole was banned again in 1457 by King James II of Scotland. Just a little backstory on King James here. So of course, right, the oldest brother, the oldest son in the family gets be the king. So there was a James first, right? Well, James the First was assassinated when James the Second was only 6 years old, and James the Second's twin, his oldest brother, died when he was just a year old. So they kind of just gave James the Second, he was king when he was 6 years old. They just kind of gave it to him, of course. So it's just how it goes, and he was king for quite a while. So again, he banned the game of golf because it was getting too popular. He thought that men should be, practicing their archery, and they were spending way too much time playing golf, instead of practicing, again, their archery. So I can only imagine what he would think of, the game of golf today. The ban was upheld by his son, James III, and then it was removed by James IV, King James IV, when he became a golfer himself. So the ban lasted about 45 years long. Kind of crazy, again, to just think that a game of golf can be banned, but that's just different times, of course. The course never really had one true, designer. However, many contributions were made by a couple of men named Daw Anderson and Old Tom Morris. That is his, nickname, I guess, Old Tom Morris. If you look him up, he has a son named Young Tom Morris as his nickname. Very original. The St. Andrews Lynx had a scare when they went bankrupt in 1797. The town council of St. Andrews decided to allow a rabbit farm to, start to inhabit the course, to kind of challenge the golf course for popularity, to maybe make, people not want to golf as much, especially since they were going bankrupt, of course. However, a local landowner and golfer bought the land in 1821, and they are kind of attributed as saving the golf course. We might not have, of course, this this major championship here on this course if it weren't for the landowner there. Originally, this course was played over the same set of fairways out and back to the same hole. So you would play 9 holes out, and then you'd play the exact same holes, 9 holes back in, just playing a bunch of shared greens. As interest in this game, started to develop, lots of golfers would often be playing the same hole but be going in different directions. So if the course was loaded that day, you'd probably see a lot of people on the fairway. You'd have to take turns hitting. You can only imagine what that looked like some days. So in the mid 1700s, the course had 22 holes. However, the members would play the same hole going out and in, except a couple of the holes. Someone decided, though, that the first 4 and the last 4 holes of the course were way too short and that they should be combined into 4 total holes. So you take those down a little bit, 2 in and 2 out. That would get you 18 total holes, and that is how we actually have 18 holes on golf courses here today. If it weren't for that, special someone, who knows? We might be golfing 22 holes or, I guess a front 11, back 11, who knows, right? But that's how the standard, I guess you can say, of 18 holes was created. Around 1863, again, that man, old Tom Morris, had the first green separated from the 17th green. This gave the current 18-hole layout now has 7 double greens and 4 single greens. And you'll hear me talk about those in a little bit. The course measures just a shade over 7,300 yards, and it's a par 72 track. However, it is a pretty unique scorecard. There's 2 par 3s, 2 par 5s, so that gets us to 14 par 4s. So par 4 scoring is definitely going to be important this week. As we saw last week at the Scottish Open, of course, the wind can come and go, and that's going to be one of the biggest defenses of the course. It can also create a major advantage for you if you can read up into it, right before lock, of course, on Wednesday night or Thursday morning, I guess you could say, and just find wherever that wave advantage might be. Might be a good idea just to set, lineups for both sides of the wave advantage. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well. However, the Old Course is one of the easiest courses in the Open Championship rotation of courses. The last 4 winners, again, have reached 14 under par or lower. The fairways are relatively wide on this course. The course is also on the shorter side compared to some other, major championship courses. The course, again, has 7 shared green complexes that'll give a really unique view of, just really everything. I'm interested to see what the broadcast does because, again, you can see, multiple people putting, or I guess 2 different golfers putting at the same time. I can only imagine what that'll look like, especially if they want to save time on certain things. We'll see what it looks like on Thursday morning, of course, at least from a broadcast view. The greens are made up of fescue, bentgrass, and POA. It's a little mix of all 3 of those, and they are relatively slow compared to other majors. Other than the wind, one of the main defenses of this course is the 112 deep bunkers. Very similar to last week at the Scottish Open, they are small little pot bunkers that truly are a penalty. Like, you cannot chip, a lot of these, you cannot chip forward. If you are chipping forward, you're only, hitting sand and you're hitting, 100 yards, for example. You're not getting where you want to, of course, kind of like a lot of the American bunkers that we can see on American courses, I should say. So these really are a penalty. You might, you definitely can forget thinking about a birdie if you hit one of these fairway bunkers, or even one, of course, obviously around the green. So it's going to be very difficult if you hit those those bunkers. The rough is relatively short, though, 1.5 inches. It is fescue. The historic cut line, though, in 2010, the cut line was +2. 2015, the cut line was even par. So those were the last 2 times that this, course saw the Open Championship. Let's go ahead and break down this course now. Each of the 18 holes have a nickname. I'll try to highlight here. Some of them are kind of clever. I guess not really, but I'll talk about them. Shoot, I've been looking over I've been missing the chat. Thanks for jumping in, Scott. I appreciate you. We got to get Scott on this show here soon. I need to talk to producer about that here in a little bit. But yeah, we'd love to have you on here, Scott. So yeah, let's break down this course. All 18 holes, of course, again, they have different nicknames. Worst king ever. I don't know how you can, for ranking the things that you can ban, I think banning alcohol is probably number 1, right? But banning golf has got to be a very close second. And, banning both of those 2 together is basically the worst thing that you can do. So yeah, worst king ever, I would agree. Thanks for joining, though. Okay, hole number 1 here. It is a par 4. It is 375 yards long. There's quite a mix of par fours. There's some that are relatively short. This one, kind of in the middle. It is under 400 yards, of course, but we will see some longer par fours throughout this as well. For each of these holes, I'm going to also give the 2015 scoring average and where it ranked in difficulty compared to the other 18 holes. Of course, that can change this week. There have, I'm sure, been some changes to the course over the last 7 years, but yeah, I'll give you what the scoring average was in 2015. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. So, hole number one, this nickname is Burn. The 2015 scoring average was 3.84 for a par four, so it was slightly below par. It was the 13th hole ranked in difficulty. There's no bunkers in this fairway, and it's also one of the widest fairways in golf. It's definitely one of the more generous fairways that golfers will see all week long. However, there is out of bounds on both the right and left sides of the fairway. The wind does determine just about everything on this hole, though. It could be at your back, it could be at your face, left, right. You just never really know. So it's important to, of course, test it out before you hit your tee shot. There is what's known as the Swilken Burn that runs down the right side of the fairway towards the face of the green. I would say the safe shot is to avoid the burn and hit the back part of the green, which will actually leave a pretty long putt depending on the hole position. So if you can imagine that right, you don't want to hit that very sloping burn that sits right in front of the green. You never really know where your ball is going to react off of that burn. A lot of golfers are going to try and hit the back part of the green, but if that pin position's right in the front, you might be faced with a long putt. I'll talk about 3-putt avoidance in a little bit, but I think you'll get that idea as I go through this course. 3-putt avoidance is going to be huge because a lot of your shots are going to be on these massive greens. I have a couple of sizes for some of them too. 3-putt avoidance is really going to be big in my opinion. Let's move on to hole number 2. It is a par 4. This one measures 452 yards. So as the distance goes up here, so does the difficulty. In 2015, the scoring average was 4.04, so slightly over par this time. It is the 8th most difficult hole on the course, again, on hole 2. The second hole features the first hole on the course with a shared green, sharing the complex with the 16th hole. The ideal tee shot this time is to avoid the bunker, what's known as Cheap's bunker. I shouldn't say all, but just about most of the bunkers and mounds and like a lot of the main slopes on this course, bridges, really anything on this course has a name. This one is known as Cheap's bunker. Some of them have names that have, descriptions behind them that you can look up. Some of them I have no clue where they came up with some of them. So if you hear me call, this one again is known as Cheap's bunker. That's where I'm getting it from. You can find this on the left side of the fairway, though. It's about 300 to 320 yards off the tee. There are 3 bunkers further down the fairway on the right side as well. We always get into that debate on, accuracy over distance. I really don't know which one to favor this week. I'm just looking for guys that can, hit the most optimal shot off the tee, whether it's, I'm definitely going more towards accuracy this week. I know going into 2015, distance was a big stat that people looked at, but Zach Johnson won in 2015. He's definitely not a bomber by any means. So you've got to be able to miss these fairway bunkers. If you're hitting them, you're, again, essentially giving up a birdie. You can almost write yourself down for a bogey because sometimes you almost have to hit backwards or like you're hitting the ball straight up. And it's the most frustrating thing on Shot Tracker because you're watching your guy hit they're bombing at 300 yards off the tee right, but they're in these fairway bunkers and they're hitting it, maybe 20 yards next. And again, it's super frustrating to see on Shot Tracker, but now I guess that it's just because they're in these small pop bunkers. Then there's 3 bunkers further down the fairway on the right side. There's also some very severe undulations on the screen, especially on the front side that will ricochet balls that are left short. So another, kind of a mound, I guess you can say. We have American words for this. I like to say mound and hill. There's a bunch that I was looking at that were describing some of these hills before that I don't quite remember, but I'll call it a mound. There's quite a few of them, especially on these first couple of holes that, again, will ricochet those short balls. You never really know, how they will react to the mound there. So I do think, knowing your angles and knowing where to hit the green on this course, not like course history is going to be super relevant. Not everyone's played here, but Guys that maybe have gotten in a few practice rounds might have an upper hand here. Hole number 3, this one is titled Cartgate Out. It is par 4. It ranks 398 yards. The scoring average in 2015 was 3.86, making it the 11th most difficult hole on the course. Pretty, good birdie opportunity for golfers if the wind is down. You'll hear a lot, again, about setting up these proper angles on this course. I think this hole is a perfect example of that. The drive should be to the right side of the fairway, which is lined with pot bunkers, which of course is a little bit scary. There are some small, bushes as well on this hole. However, that will leave the best angle to avoid what's called the Cartgate bunker, which is shaped like a moon and is very, very deep. So the further left that you drive, the more that this bunker comes into play on the approach shot, which is again right by the green. It's right in the front side, the left front of the green. Any shot into any one of these 7 bunkers on this hole will probably be a penalty. The first one off the tee is about 275 yards from the tee box, so it comes into play just about right off that tee there. Of course, you can lay up into that, but relatively longer, 398 yards. I do think a tee or a layup, might actually be an optimal shot here. Cartgate, again, I'm telling you, they have some very clever names for this. This one was called Cartgate Out. Really just Cartgate gets its name from the pathway that was used to cross this third fairway to get to the water, to the sea there. So they called it Cartgate. I don't know. So moving on. Hole 4, it's par 4, 480 yards. This one is nicknamed Ginger Beer for one of the refreshments that was added to the tournaments here. Ginger Beer, of course. The 2015 scoring average was 4.15, so slightly over par as well. It is the 4th most difficult hole on the course, actually. There's a couple of options off the tee on this hole. Golfers can go straight towards the flag and down a narrow strip of the fairway that's surrounded by bunkers and rough grass along the small strip of short grass. Or golfers can also lay up to about 290 yards to avoid those fairway bunkers, but will be faced with another large mound on the left side of the green and a deep greenside bunker. Because of this, the green is definitely one of the most difficult to hit in regulation on this course. Again, that is the 4th hole. Long par 4, so again, difficulty is going to go up here as well. It is the 4th most difficult hole on the course. Hole number 5, we get to a par 5 now. This is one of 2 par 5s on the course. This one is called Hole O Crossout. It is 570 yards long. The scoring average for this hole is 4.46, making it the easiest hole on the course. One of only 2 par 5s, like I said, it is easily reachable in 2 shots as long as the wind is not in your face as you tee off. The tee shot must avoid what's called the 7 Sisters bunkers that are found on the right side of the fairway. Again, 7 Sisters bunkers. There's 7 small bunkers that are just scattered throughout the rough there on the right side of the fairway. There are 2 bunkers called the Spectacles that will get in the way of the second shot. So the safe way to play this hole is just to lay up before those 2 bunkers, again, that come before the green. However, again, guys can hit this green into those, so you could see guys carry it, of course, and go for the green there. The safe play, though, is to lay up before those 2 and get on in 3 shots. The double green, this one is shared with hole number 13. It is the largest on the course, and it's slightly less than 38,000 square feet. The 2 holes there. So you kind of have to take that. Even if you cut that in half, right, that's 17,000 square feet. Or 19, sorry. 19, my math's way off here. Sorry, 19,000 square feet. Like the average, we're looking at old courses that we've seen over the last 2 months. Like the average square foot per green is like 5,000 square feet over these last, 8 events that we've seen. This one, again, 38,000 between the 2, you cut that in half, that's 19,000, right? These greens are massive. So you're going to see really long putts. You're going to see like 100-foot putts, which is insane, right? But it's going to be massive. So these greens aren't going to be the most difficult to hit, especially if you're just kind of aiming towards the center or, aiming for a specific spot. But you've got to be good with your lag putting and putting from 25, 30, 40 plus feet. I would definitely look at that stat as well, putting from 25 plus. I think that's on Fantasy National as well. So, again, 38,000 square feet for the shared green, right? So it is two, but that's much higher than the average of 5,000 that we've been seeing over the last month or two. Hole number 6, this is a par 4. It measures 414 yards. It is called Heathery. The 2015 scoring average was 3.86. The tee shot is completely blind, so bunkers to the left and the right are hidden off the tee. So you're going to have a blind tee shot. You won't be able to see those bunkers, but this hole isn't the longest par 4. There's 9 total bunkers on this hole, though, so definitely add some defense to it. Again, but it was played slightly under par in 2015. There is a heavy dip that runs across the front of the green, so that definitely makes that approach shot very tricky. Most players will still have a wedge into the rather large green, so again, that's going to come down to kind of a putting contest on this one, in my opinion. A scoreable hole, can you knock it close? Can you hit in your putt? I don't think we're going to see too many bogeys on this unless guys are hitting one of the 9 total bunkers on this hole. Hole number 7 is a par 4. It is 371 yards long. Starting on this 7th hole, golfers will encounter what's called a 6-hole stretch titled the Loop. It's a circular section on the course that brings players back towards the clubhouse. We don't quite turn back quite yet here, but we start the loop that starts that turn back for golfers. The loop features 4 short par 4s and 2 par 3s that can produce a lot of birdies and bogeys if players aren't careful. The longest par 4 is only 386 yards on this stretch of holes, so many golfers can drive the green on these shorter holes if the wind is down or if it's in their back, of course. The loop also features the course's 2 par 3s, which measure 174 and 187 yards, respectively. If you're going to score well, you have to make birdies on the loop, again, which is from the 7th to the 11th hole, I believe. Yeah. So starting on the 7th hole, this one is nicknamed High Out. It is the 2015 scoring average was 3.8. It was the 15th ranked hole in difficulty, so relatively easy compared to some other ones here. And you'll see that in this stretch of holes. The 7th hole features the only true dogleg on the old course. Most players will likely hit an iron to a flat area, kind of by a large mound. Where the 7th and the 11th holes cross, the green is guarded by a shell bunker that's kind of in the shape of a shell, and it slopes from the left to the right. The green slopes to the right, so the best line is to the left of the flag. The shell bunker, again, is the 2nd largest bunker on the course, trailing what's called the hell bunker. I'll talk about that on the 14th hole. The shell bunker got its name due to the resembling shape of a seashell. In 2010, Louis Oosthuizen, who won the event, he played this hole 3 under par for the week. So again, this stretch, you've got to be scoring on this stretch. That when your golfers are getting to the 7th, you've got to be, hoping for some birdies here. Hole number 8, it is a par 3. It is measured 187 yards. It's probably the most, original nickname. It is titled Short. It's a short hole, so they got, gave it the nickname Short. Par 3, 187. So, however, the scoring average for this short hole was 3.04, so slightly above par. It's the 7th most difficult hole on the course. The it's the only par 3 on the front 9. So, again, only 2 par 3s on this course. Likely see a short iron, depending on where the wind is blowing. The large green tilts slightly towards the back, and it's also very difficult to hold. It has a high-lipped bunker that guards the front of the green as well. The green had an 83% GIR percentage in 2015, though, so that just kind of gives you an idea of how big these greens are. 83% GIR percentage. So 83% of guys are hitting the green, but it's still playing slightly over par. So that just shows you, again, one, how big these greens are, but also how undulating they are, how difficult the putting can be. And again, just how big the greens are. We're not seeing 83% on every golf course, but if the greens are relatively big, a lot of guys can hit them. But if we're still, seeing 3.04, it's still playing, over par. It's not like this is an easy hole by any means. So there's just been one hole in one, excuse me, on this hole since 1984. It came in the fourth round in that 1984 Open Championship. Hole 9, this one is nicknamed End because it is the end of the front nine. The ninth hole is a par 4. It measures 352 yards, so very short for a par 4. The scoring average in 2015 was 3.81. So again, a birdie hole in my opinion. Below par, of course. It is the 14th most difficult hole on the course. This is one of the easiest holes on the course. It is, the green is relatively flat compared to some of the other undulating greens that golfers will see. There are, also aren't many greenside bunkers on this hole as well. There's 2 bunkers in the fairway, though, that will come into play. If you can keep your drive to the left side of the fairway, you should be safe. Louis Oosthuizen made a 50-foot eagle on this hole to reach 16 under in the final round of his 2010 victory. I think he won that by 7 strokes, so it's not like it was, I don't know. He already kind of had it won, I guess, but 50-foot eagle putt, again, you're going to see very long putts, 50, 75 foot, just depending on where your ball is and how big these greens are, of course. Let's move on to the back nine now. Hole number 10, it is a par 4. This one measures 386 yards long. This one is nicknamed Bobby Jones, who has, his, imprint, I guess you can say, all over this course. He didn't really have a huge part in designing it, of course, but there's a lot of stories on him playing, a lot of stories of him getting frustrated as hell on this course and actually even getting DQ'd from an event on this in a championship. So I encourage you to read up on that as well. Again, he has a lot of influence on this. Just a lot of stories on Bobby Jones. I think he even took some inspiration from this course when he was helping design Augusta, which of course hosts the Masters. So this is another par 4 that can be reached off the tee with reached on the green, I guess, off the tee with little wind. The landing area is a bit tighter, though. The rough is to the left, and there are 2 small bunkers on the right side of the green as well, about 290 yards away, actually in the fairway, excuse me. The double green here is shared with the 8th green. It is the second largest double green on the course. This one is more than 30,000 square feet. Split that in half. Again, about 15,000 square feet for this green for each hole. That is ridiculous. That's, again, 3 times larger than some of the greens we've been seeing over in America over the last couple of months. Hole number 11, this is a par 3. It's 174 yards. This one is titled High In this time. 2015 scoring average here was 3.09. It is the 6th most difficult hole. The final par 3 on the course, and far more intimidating than the other hole. It could be anything from a 9-iron. It could be a hybrid. It could be a 3-iron, depending on the wind. There's also a bunker called the Strath bunker that's in front of the green that could require players to go backwards, like literally hitting the ball backwards to get it out of it because it's so deep. Just very difficult, obviously, to hit a shot that high up when you're right next to the lip of it. The green slopes severely to the front. And the caddies call this the shortest par 5 in Scotland. It's a par 3, right? But they call it the shortest par 5 because it's very brutal. Again, 6th most difficult hole in 2015. The fairway also is, riddled with nasty bunkers. So it's not like you can just hit a, layup shot and avoid some of the other trouble by the green. It's just tough. That the green is very slanted too. There's only been 2 hole-in-ones on the 11th hole in an Open in the last 7 events here. The last was in the 2015 Open, actually. Number 12, it's par 4. It's 351 yards long. It is called Heathery Inn, so it takes the same name as the other one. I think that was the 7th, right? I'll have to double check, but this is Heathery Inn. We're going back in towards the clubhouse now. It played right at par, 4.01 in 2015. It is the 9th most difficult hole on the course. This short hole is deceptive because there are 4 bunkers in the middle of the fairway that are hidden from the tee box. We have another blind shot here off the tee. Some players will go for the green, though. It is only 351 yards long. However, the safe shot is to the left side of the fairway. the shortest par 4 on the scorecard, but it was the second hardest fairway to hit in 2015. And, players only found the fairway actually 55% of the time. Um, but that stat might be skewed a little bit, especially if it is a drivable green. I don't really know how that works. Does that count as a GIR or you're not driving the fairway right if you drive the green on a par 4? I don't know how that works. So that stat, might be skewed just a little bit. I would have to dive deeper on that. Moving on to hole 13. It is a par 4. This one measures 465 yards long. The 2015 scoring average was 4.19, making it the third most difficult hole on the course. The loop ends with an easier stretch of holes, right? But the 13th hole begins the toughest stretch on the back 9. Again, this one is the third most difficult hole. We're going to see some very difficult holes going up to, I guess the 18th isn't too difficult, but this one's the start of it. Again, this one measures 465 yards long, so another long par 4 that is very difficult. This one starts with a group of bunkers about 200 yards away from the tee box. They are titled the coffins, so you are dead probably if you're finding those bunkers. You should want to aim for the immense double green and hopefully avoid the deep bunker on the right side of that green as well. This was the most difficult fairway to hit in 2005 and 2010. Players hit the fairway just 41% of the time in 2005 and just under 50% in 2010. So pretty difficult, fairway. It was 5th in driving accuracy on all the holes. Golfers hit it 61% of the time in 2015. So, tough fairway to hit, pretty difficult hole, especially with those bunkers that just kind of sit right in the middle of the fairway. They are tricky. So there's only been 2 eagles that have been made on this hole in the last 7 events. The last one was in 2010. It is a par 4 though, so it's not like that should be expected. Number 14, this is a par 5. It is 614 yards long and also very creative name here. This one is titled Long because it is the longest hole on the course. Again, 614 yards long. So they called it Long. The scoring average was 5.01, making it the 10th most difficult hole on the course. There is an out of bounds wall that kind of runs down the right side of the fairway, and there's also a group of 4 bunkers that are on the left side that require, about 250 yards off the tee box to, jump over those. So if the wind's blowing, that can definitely be tough there. Going to have to be a little bit more strategic with your tee shot. Into the wind, the second shot should be played towards the 5th hole fairway so you can avoid what's called the hell bunker. The hell bunker is the largest bunker on the course. Into the wind, this is also a 3-shot par 5. You can, really difficult to hit the green into on this long par 5, especially if the wind is blowing in your face. Few holes left here. Number 14, this is a par 4, 455 yards long. This one is called Cartgate Inn this time, so same name as before. However, we're going in towards the clubhouse. 2015 scoring average was 4.11, slightly over par, making it the 5th most difficult hole on the course. The Sutherland bunker, the title of that bunker, is in the middle of the fairway. It could also be a factor into the wind as well. This fairway starts to get narrow, though, at about 300 yards, and there's another collection of 3 bunkers called Rob's bunkers that come as you get closer to the green as well. The approach shot is open, though, to a sloping green, so that might be a little bit easier than the tee shot, but again, another difficult hole here. Starting on the 13th hole, we go 3rd most difficult, 10th most difficult, 5th most difficult for the 15th. The 16th and 17th are the 1st and 2nd most difficult holes too. So very brutal stretch after finishing up what's called the loop here. Again, starting on the 13th, going up to what's now the 16th hole. This is a par 4. This one measures 418 yards long. The 2015 scoring average was 4.24, which is very, very high. The par 4 16th hole was the 2nd toughest hole in 2015, mainly due to the 3 bunkers in the fairway and also the 2 that protect the green as well. The hole played 0.24 strokes above par and also has one of the more difficult fairways and greens to hit on the course. In 2015, Jordan Spieth made a 50-foot birdie putt on the 16th hole in the final round to tie for the lead with 2 holes to play. It also made his, comeback a little bit more real there. However, he did bogey the 17th hole, which we'll move on to now. This is the most difficult hole on the course. It is a par 4. This one measures 495 yards. This one is titled Road. The 17th hole, again, was the most difficult in 2015. It's nicknamed Road due to the road that actually sits beside the back right side of the green. The green is protected by what's called the road hole bunker on the back side, which is small but deep, and it is a pot bunker that's very, very difficult to chip out of. Players must hit their tee shot over the Old Course Hotel, which is actually the old site of the original St. Andrews rail station. But yeah, you're actually hitting it over a building. You have to kind of hit it over that building for the most optimal tee shot. It's going to be kind of a cool tee shot to watch them hit. This hole, again, played 4.66, on average. So 0.66 strokes above par. Like the second most difficult hole played only 0.24 strokes above par. So that is ridiculous. You're going to see some high scores on the 17th hole. I'm sure it's not just bogeys. I don't have the birdies bogey stats for you this week, but 4.66, I don't think I've seen one that high. At least 0.66 strokes above par. That's a very difficult hole. So the green is protected again by this bunker. I would assume lots of people go out of bounds potentially, into the road there, but I think that'll be a really cool visual too, again, going over that hotel. Hole number 18, it's a par 4. This one measures 356 yards. So we do end with a relatively easier hole. This one played 3.79 strokes on average in 2015 for a par 4, making it the 17th, or really the second easiest hole on the course. The closing hole is pretty short and simple, but it can also, provide some drama, of course, in the final round. It can be reached from the tee, but it has a road that runs along the right side and shot towards the green must carry what's called the Valley of Sin, which is a big or a little swale there, I guess you can say, that will provide trouble, of course, for golfers. One of the most iconic landmarks in all of golf is featured on this hole as well. It's called the Swilcan Bridge. You could probably see, lots of famous pictures of guys waving on that bridge there. The bridge has become the course's most popular place for pictures, again, at the Old Course. So that is a hole-by-hole breakdown here today. Definitely lots to go over here. I hope you enjoyed some of those stories that, can really be found with this Old Course. It has over 500 years of history, close to 600 years of history now. So obviously there's going to be a lot of stories out there. I really encourage you all to read up on that at some point if you have the chance. How I want to close this out here today. So, just going through all of that, some key stats that I think will be important, of course, are strokes gained off the tee. I talked about it nonstop, how many bunkers there are in the fairway. So I really want to look at good drives gained and just guys who have been just being strategic off the tee, I guess, over the last 24 rounds. Who's setting up the most optimal shot towards the green? Who is, hitting the greens or hitting the green after their tee shot? That's why I like the good drives gained stat. It's one thing to bomb it, right? But, are you actually getting somewhere? Are you actually hitting the green with your shot? And I think that's where, why I really like that stat. Strokes gained approach is always going to be a important factor. Proximity is probably more important because who's going to be hitting it closest to the hole. So who's going to be setting up the least amount of 3 putts, that kind of stuff, right? So, but of course, strokes gained approach is always going to be important. Par 4 scoring, right? There's 14 par 4s, so that's way more than half of the holes on the course here. So par 4 scoring is going to be huge. There is kind of a diversity of length between those holes, though. There's quite a few that come 350 to 375. There's a good chunk that come 450 to 500 too. So, but the most difficult ones, of course, will be the longest ones. So you can look at that a little bit more potentially. 3-putt avoidance, talked about it all show long. The greens are massive. You're going to be seeing some very long putts. You want to see guys that are really good at lag putting and guys that can putt from 25 feet or more. Bogey avoidance. I don't mind if you look at birdie or better percentage this week, but we are still in a major, right? I talked about it in the article. Like, yes, we are going to see a winning score close to 15 under par, but we're also going to see guys that are shooting 5 over, 6 over, 7 over in a round too. So, obviously the guy who shoots the most birdies usually wins, right? But the guys that can limit their mistakes the most are likely going to be, in that top 10, top five when it's all said and done. So that's what I'm looking at this week. Bogey avoidance. The top 5 players in bogey avoidance over the last 24 rounds are Tony Finau, actually. Matthew Fitzpatrick, he's always a big bogey avoidance guy. Shane Lowry, Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, a couple other names here: Keegan Bradley, Seamus Power, and Cameron Young have also been relatively good at the stat as well for some value plays. But you can see some of my other value, stat plays, I guess, in my article on fantasy points. And of course, strokes gained overall. Want to see guys that have been playing well recently, who has been in good form, of course. So those are my main 6 stats that I'm looking at this week. I threw all of those into a model, and I'll never claim to be the best at building these models. There are tons of guys out there that are really good at it. Spencer, of course, Byron, Model Maniac. Matt's really good at it too. I encourage you all to look at his YouTube video on how he builds his models too. But, if I throw those 6 stats into there, I also put in stroke gain putting from long distance. I think that's it. Yeah, otherwise the ones that I said. So if I put all of those together, that's going to give me my model here. It actually has Tony Finau at the top of my model, of course. Again, there's only a few stats here. Obviously, you can adjust those a little bit, and I weighted those out a little bit differently, of course. I do think strokes gained part 4 is going to be big. Strokes gained total, just your recent form, I want to look at that. Strokes gained approach too. So you can make a model look however you really want to. But this is how mine looks just from everything that I've read about the course, everything that I've typed up about it. This is what I feel strongly about. Again, I have Tony Finau at the top. He ranks first. Will Zalatoris ranks second in my model. Scotty Scheffler is third. Rory McIlroy is fourth. Xander Schauffele is fifth. And again, those are some of the main stats that I was looking at this week. But again, no expert at that. There's a lot of good info out there each and every week on models. Okay, so a couple more things I want to talk about here. Each and every week, if this is your first time watching, of course, we break down the 18 holes too. But if you go through my event and course preview on fantasy points here, you can see some essential questions that I think are important each and every week. And sometimes these are really easy to come up with. Sometimes, I have a little bit difficult time coming up with what's really going to be an X factor. And I try to come up with questions that we don't necessarily know, but you do need to consider and almost just take a stand, right? Because you're either going to be dead right on it or you're going to be dead wrong. And that's just kind of how this game goes sometimes. So my first question, there's no way around this. We have to, look at weather this week. You saw it with the Scottish Open. I cannot believe the wave advantage that the Thursday AM guys had on the opening round compared to the PM guys. A 3-shot advantage. That is insane. That's one of the highest I've seen, at least between 2 different waves. So I don't know. It's definitely whipped me in the butt a couple times now. If you remember the Players Championship, that was really big wave advantage as well. My best advice to you is just to wait until Wednesday night to look at the weather. And it's really hard not to create your lineups or fill out your lineups. We all have different lives, right? So if you don't have time to do it at 10 o'clock, right, on a Wednesday night, I totally understand. But if you want the most advantage, because there are players that are waiting to the last minute to find out what that wave advantage is, you definitely want to be waiting as long as possible, because otherwise you're just going to wake up Thursday morning and just be really frustrated because you played all PM guys, or you just played half and half, and half your 2 or 3 of your guys are 6 over par because the winds are blowing 15 miles an hour. I don't know yet, right? It's Monday, so all this can change. So just, I don't know, try to save yourself some frustration, make a stand on weather. It's not going to be a big impact every week, but man, it's really coming important on some of these major events. So try to wait as long as possible. You're not going to get it right every single time, but I'm starting to like it a little bit more. I said it last week. I'm kind of indecisive sometimes. on some of these guys. Like I love, I'm a fan of way too many of them, so it makes me want to play too many of them sometimes. So if I can narrow that down a little bit by, again, looking specifically at a tee time and narrowing my player pool down to just morning guys, just, afternoon guys, again, there will likely be a guy that, goes off in the afternoon like Kurt Kitayama did last week. But I don't know. There's going to be many more guys that blow up in the win, and you just kind of have to take those stats, take those chances there. So otherwise, should we be concerned about my other central question, excuse me, should we be concerned about golfers that played poorly at the Scottish Open last week? And I said definitely not. That's probably too big of a stand there, too bold there. You definitely want to be a little worried if they weren't, gaining strokes in any stat category. But, again, if you look at Collin Morikawa last year at the Scottish Open, he finished T71 the week before winning at Royal St. George's. If you remember, there was the tweet out there that said he wasn't feeling great with his irons, right? That's why a lot of us faded him. That will always go down in DFS golf history, I think. But, Morikawa still had good form heading into the Scottish Open. He had 7 straight top 20 finishes. He had a bunch of top 10s in majors as well heading into the Open Championship. So it's not like he wasn't in good form. He just had a pretty, rough week with the putter, which again just made people kind of jump off him a little bit, especially with the quote that he gave, or that was reported at least. So, no, I don't think you should just automatically fade guys because they had a tough time on their first links test of the year, potentially, last week, excuse me. However, it does give you a little bit to look at, right? For example, Justin Thomas lost strokes, ball striking. I think he lost 2.35 putting. So, I'm never going to be one to fully tell you to fade Justin Thomas, but he had a very, I don't know, was not like himself last week. I don't know what's going on there. So, yeah, I don't know. Like I said, probably not the stand I should take on that. Just because someone played well doesn't mean they're going to just play great this week, or, vice versa, right? But you can look at it a little bit. Talked about Zalatoris in my article. He gained strokes ball striking, actually. He gained strokes on approach, gained quite a bit off the tee as well, slightly negative around the green. He just had a terrible putting performance. He actually was just 1 over par in the first round and then 4 over par in the second. So, Zalatoris is going to be my biggest X factor this week because typically I like him the most in these, non-birdie fest events where the winning score isn't really getting that close to 15 under. But, if I'm kind of taking my stand, then I think, it might actually play a little bit tougher this year. Like, who are we to believe that they haven't made the course a little bit tougher in the last 7 years, for example? Like, we have no clue. So, and again, plus the weather can always impact things. So, I don't know. Going through all 18 holes, especially on the live show, definitely makes me realize how many scoreable holes there are in this course. But again, wind can play a factor. It's a major championship. These bunkers are literally insane. They are actually penalty strokes. So, again, I don't think it's going to be just this birdie fest where everybody's shooting, 4 under par every round, right? The cut line's still going to be at -1, -2, maybe even par. So, Will Zalatoris is going to be my biggest X factor, but I'm still probably going to play him because he's been so damn good in majors recently. I talked about 2022 majors pedigree in my article as well. There's only been 3 golfers that have an aggregate score, so a total score under par through the 3 events this year. Zalatoris is one of those. He actually leads the way at 13 under par through those 3 events. McIlroy is second at 11 under par, and Fitzpatrick is 7 under par. There's a few other guys that have made every cut so far in all 3 majors as well. Jon Rahm, Justin Thomas, Hideki Matsuyama, Collin Morikawa, and then Max Homa, Niemann, Hatton, Leishman, Patrick Reed, and Seamus Power as well. So those are some guys that have at least made the cut every weekend. So if you want to kind of go with that narrative, you can do that. You could also, be a glass half empty guy. I might say they are due to miss the cut if they've been so good this year, but I don't know. They've been consistent so far. So, okay, you kind of heard me talk about Finau. I like him quite a bit this week. Again, he ranks near the top of my model here in just about every stat that I mentioned. But, we'll see. It's still Tony Finau, right? But we have seen guys that, aren't constantly winning on the tour, kind of had a monkey on their back this year win, right? Obviously, Scotty Scheffler had a minor monkey on his back, and then Xander, of course, had a huge monkey on his back that he finally shook off over the last couple of events. So, um, otherwise, I really like Max Homa too. I love going back to the well with him. I actually, for a split second, thought he was going to win yesterday. He was, just a shot back. He was 5 under par, and then just kind of blew up in the last couple of holes, and actually made that top 20 bet I had a little bit of a sweat. I actually had to split it because he tied with 9 people at T16. So that kind of sucked, but I do like going back to Max Homa. Like I said, he's finished inside the top 20 in 10 of his 19 starts this season and has gained strokes with his irons in every event since November. So very consistent. He was T40 in the Open Championship last year. That was his debut. He's just been so solid in all aspects of the game. I really like Homa this week as well. Okay, that is enough of me talking here tonight. I appreciate you all listening. If you're on YouTube, if you could hit the subscribe button for me, I would really appreciate that. Help us grow the YouTube page. Don't forget to hit the like button as well. This week at Fantasy Points, we have free shows all week. So we'll have 2 shows tomorrow, a DFS show and a betting show. And then we'll have Matt and Dom's show on Wednesday night. That's always free, of course. But, be sure to, hit us up on Twitter. You can join the Fantasy Points Discord group, of course, as well. I think that's going to be, popping this week too. I will put some course stats here in a little bit tonight in that chat. Otherwise, again, I really appreciate you all watching. Have a great week, everybody. Enjoy this final major of the year and win some money. Thanks again for watching. Have a great night, everyone.